The empty frames are the loudest things in the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. They hang on the walls in Boston placeholders for ghosts. They are shouting about what isn't there. For more than 30 years, they have been asking the same question. Where are the paintings? 13 works of art were stolen, cut from their frames in the middle of the night. It happened in March 1990. Two men dressed as police officers talked their way inside. They tied up the two young guards and spent 81 minutes inside the museum. They took their time. They chose what they wanted, then they vanished. They took a Vermeer, 3 Rembrandts, a Manet, and more. The haul is worth at least $500 million. It's the biggest art heist in history. And for all the FBI investigations, the documentaries, the books, and the massive reward, not one single piece has ever been recovered. The silence is the real mystery. Criminals usually want something. Money, power, a bargaining chip. If the mob stole the paintings to ransom, they would have tried to collect by now. If a common thief took them to sell on the black market, some piece would have surfaced. A sketch, a small etching, anything. But there has been nothing, just silence. And the silence has given life to a theory. It's a theory that feels like it's straight out of a movie, but it's also the one that makes the most sense of the quiet. The theory is this. The Gardner paintings were not stolen for money. They were stolen to order. They were stolen for a single secretive collector. Someone with limitless wealth and a burning desire to own what no one else could. Someone who wanted to look at these masterpieces not in a museum crowded with tourists, but in the quiet of their own home. And if this theory is true, it means the paintings might not be lost at all. You know, they might not be buried in a concrete bunker or rotting in a damp warehouse. They could be perfectly preserved, cared for, and hanging on a wall. They could be hanging in plain sight. Let's go back to that night. The night of the heist is the first piece of evidence for the collector theory. The thieves were selective. They didn't just smash and grab. They walked through the museum's galleries with a purpose. Think about the Dutch room. That's where the biggest prizes were. They took Vermeer's The Concert. It is one of only about 34 known Vermeers in the world. Its loss is devastating. They took Rembrandt's only known seascape, The Storm on the Sea of Galilee. A powerful, dramatic scene. They also took his small, intimate portrait, A Lady and Gentleman in Black. But they left behind the most valuable painting in the entire museum. Titian's The Rape of Europa was hanging right there. It was bigger and maybe harder to move, but its value was, and is, astronomical. A thief looking for the biggest payday would have figured out a way to get the Titian. These thieves ignored it. They walked right past it. This wasn't about grabbing the painting with the highest price tag. This was about grabbing specific paintings. It was a shopping list. The list was also strange. Along with the blockbuster masterpieces, they took a tiny self-portrait etching by Rembrandt. It's about the size of a postage stamp. Its monetary value is a fraction of the others. Why take it? Unless, of course, the person who made the list was a true Rembrandt fanatic. Someone who wanted not just his major works, but a piece that showed his own hand, his own face. It's a personal choice, not a financial one. Then there are the other oddities. They tried to take a large Napoleon-era flag, but they gave up. They unscrewed it from the wall, but then just left it. But they did take the eagle finial that sat on top of the flagpole. Just the metal eagle. It's a decorative object. Again, not something of huge value, but it's specific. It's unique. They also stole an ancient Chinese bronze beaker, a gu, from the Shang dynasty. It's beautiful and historically important, but it's a world away from Dutch Golden Age painting. The collection they stole is eclectic. It doesn't make sense as a loot bundle. It only makes sense as a personal collection, reflecting the strange and specific tastes of one individual. So who is this person? The secretive collector theory paints a picture of a character. It's someone who operates outside the normal rules. They don't see art as public heritage. They see it as the ultimate possession. This person is not motivated by profit. Selling these paintings would be impossible. They are too famous. The moment one appeared, the world would know. No, this collector never intended to sell. Their payment is the possession itself. Imagine this person. They are likely older now, if they are still alive. They built their fortune in some opaque world finance, oil, technology, maybe something less legal. They have houses scattered across the globe. A chalet in Stade, a penthouse in Tokyo, a private island in the Caribbean. These homes are fortresses, protected by the best security money can buy, far more secure than the Gardner Museum was that night in 1990. Inside one of these homes there is a room. Maybe it's not a secret vault, maybe it's just a study. A library, a quiet sitting room with a fireplace, and on the walls, bathed in carefully calibrated light, hang the stolen masterpiece. The storm on the Sea of Galilee rages over the mantelpiece. Vermeer's musicians play their silent song on the opposite wall. The Manet portrait, Chez Tortoni, hangs by the door. The collector can sit in a leather armchair with a glass of something expensive and just look. They can get closer than anyone in a museum ever could. They can see the brushstrokes. They can see the cracks in the old paint. They can have a private conversation with Rembrandt, with Vermeer. It is the ultimate act of ego, to say, this is mine, only I get to see this. This explains the silence. There is no need to make a ransom demand. There is no need to find a black market buyer. The transaction was complete the moment the paintings were delivered. The thieves got paid, likely in cash or diamonds, and the collector got their prize. The circle of knowledge is incredibly small. The two thieves. Maybe a middleman who arranged the deal. And the collector. That's it. In a world of secrets, the fewer people who know, the safer the secret is. For this to work, the collector would have to be a master of discretion. They couldn't show off their new acquisitions. Not to anyone. Not to friends, not to family, not to business associates. This is a pleasure taken in solitude. The thrill is in the knowing. The knowledge that you possess something so beautiful, so famous, and so forbidden. It's a secret that you hold close. It's a power that only you can feel. So, could they be hanging in plain sight? What does that really mean? It probably doesn't mean they are hanging in the main hall of a billionaire's mansion during a charity gala. That would be too risky, but plain sight can be a very private thing. Let's consider the possibilities. The most likely scenario is the private gallery, a room or a series of rooms in one of the collector's homes. This space is off limits to everyone. Staff are not allowed in, guests are never shown it. It's the collector's sanctuary. Here, the paintings are in plain sight for an audience of one. They are treated with the care they deserve. The temperature is controlled. The humidity is perfect. The lighting is non-damaging. In this scenario, the art is safe. It is being preserved. It is just inaccessible to the rest of the world. The collector is not a villain who wants to destroy the art. They are a lover of the art. An obsessive, selfish lover, but a lover nonetheless. They are its warden, its keeper, its secret admirer. There's another, more brazen version of in plain sight. What if the collector is so insulated by power and wealth that they feel untouchable? They might hang the paintings in a semi-private part of their home, a study, a library, a place where a very small, very trusted circle of people might enter. Anyone who would see them would have to be someone who would never ever talk. A child who stands to inherit billions, a spouse who is complicit, a lawyer who is bound by a frightening version of client confidentiality. The collector might get a thrill from this risk, the audacity of it. Hiding the world's most wanted art right there on the wall. They might even have a story ready. It's a copy. A magnificent copy, isn't it? I had it commissioned. Only they would know the truth. The quiet smile they get from that lie would be part of the pleasure. This sounds like a plot from a James Bond movie. And that's the biggest criticism of the secretive collector theory. It's too romantic. It's too neat. The reality of crime is often messy, stupid, and disappointing. The main suspects in the Gardner Heist were not sophisticated, international art thieves. They were local Boston criminals, mob associates, guys named George Riesfelder, and Lenny DiMuzio. Men with long rap sheets for armed robbery and drug trafficking. Does a world-class multi-billionaire art collector really hire these guys to pull off the most delicate art heist in history? It seems unlikely. These were not the type of criminals who would appreciate the subtle beauty of a Vermeer. They were the type of criminals who would want a quick, large payday. This is the main argument against the collector theory. The criminals don't fit the crime. They were brutish. They damaged the paintings, cutting them crudely from their frames. A true art lover commissioning the theft would have insisted on more delicate handling. They would have hired professionals who knew how to remove a canvas properly. The slicing of the canvases suggests a rush job. It suggests impatience and a lack of respect for the objects themselves. This points away from a discerning collector and back towards common thugs. So maybe the original plan was to ransom the paintings. The local mob stole them as a get-out-of-jail-free card. Something to bargain with if one of their bosses got into trouble with the law. This is a plausible theory. But then, why hasn't it happened? Over the years, many of the key mob figures linked to the heist have died. Their leverage is gone. The opportunity to trade the art for freedom has passed. If this was the plan, it failed. And if it failed, what happened to the paintings? This is where the collector theory can make a comeback, but in a different form. Perhaps the mobsters stole the art, and then, finding it impossible to ransom or sell, they sought out a buyer. They couldn't go to the open market, so they had to use back channels. Through a series of whispers and secret meetings, word got to a collector. A collector who had never planned the heist, but who saw an opportunity. Here was a chance to acquire the unattainable. The collector paid the criminals a fraction of the art's worth. A few $1,000,000, maybe. To the mobsters, it was pure profit for something that had become a dangerous liability. To the collector, it was the bargain of a lifetime. In this version, the collector is an opportunist, not a mastermind. This better explains the crude nature of the theft itself. The paintings were stolen by brutes, and only later did they fall into the hands of a connoisseur. This person then spirited the art away to their private sanctuary, and the silence began. What happens when the collector dies? This is the great hope for the recovery of the paintings. A secret held by one person is secure. But what happens when that person is gone? They leave behind not just a fortune, but a problem, a billion-dollar, highly illegal problem. Imagine being the heir. You open a secret vault after your father's death. You were expecting gold bars or stock certificates. Instead, you find Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galilee. You are staring at the most famous stolen objects in the world. What do? You can't sell them, you can't display them, you can't just call the FBI. You would be implicating your own family, you could face prosecution. At the very least, you would bring shame and scandal to your family name. The fortune your father built could be tied up in legal battles for decades. So, maybe you do nothing. You close the vault, you leave the paintings in the dark. They become a family curse. A secret passed down from one generation to the next. The paintings are safe. They exist, but they are trapped. They are hanging in plain sight, but only to the terrified eyes of the one person who inherited the secret. This person might even want to give them back, but how? How do you return a stolen Vermeer without getting caught? You could try an anonymous tip, but the FBI would investigate. They would want to know where the art has been for all these years. It's a huge risk. So the simplest, safest option is to do nothing. Let the paintings sit. Let the secret stay a secret. The empty frames in Boston will just have to wait. This is a sad, pathetic end for these masterpieces, to go from being admired by millions to being a terrifying burden for one person. There is another darker possibility. The heir might not care about art. They see only the liability, the risk, and they decide to solve the problem permanently. They destroy the paintings. They burn them. It is an unthinkable act of cultural vandalism, but to a frightened heir, it might seem like the only way out. The only way to erase the crime and protect the family. If this has happened, then the paintings are truly gone forever. The silence is permanent. This is the nightmare scenario for everyone who loves art. It's the reason the Gardner Museum has always stressed that the reward is for information leading to the recovery of the art, with no questions asked. They want to make it as easy as possible for someone to come forward. They are offering amnesty. Just give back the art. But the appeal has never worked. The $10 million reward remains unclaimed. This suggests that the person who knows where the paintings are does not need money, or that the risk of coming forward is greater than any financial reward. A billionaire collector does not need $10 million. And an heir terrified of prison would not be swayed by it either. The unclaimed reward is another piece of evidence that points away from common criminals and towards a world of insulated, unimaginable wealth. The psychology of such a collector is fascinating. It goes beyond a simple love of art. It's a desire for absolute control. In a museum, you share the art. You experience it with others. You see it on the institution's terms. You can't touch it. You can't be alone with it. This collector rejects that. They want a one-on-one relationship with the work. It is the ultimate expression of individualism taken to a criminal extreme. This person would believe they are a better owner of the art than the public. They would tell themselves, I can protect it better, I appreciate it more. Isabella Stewart Gardner herself was a private collector. She wanted these works in a home. I am just continuing that tradition in my own way. It's a grand self-delusion, a justification for a massive crime. But for someone living in a bubble of immense wealth, their own logic can become the only logic that matters. The rest of the world and its rules simply fade away. So let's imagine this place. Where could it be? It could be anywhere. A high-tech apartment in a skyscraper overlooking Hong Kong Harbor, a sprawling ranch in the Wyoming wilderness, a restored castle in the Scottish Highlands. These are places where privacy is absolute. The owners control their environment completely. They can build a room that doesn't appear on any blueprint. They can create a space that is shielded from the world. Inside the space, the paintings live a strange second life. They are disconnected from their history. They are no longer the Gardner's Vermeer or the Gardner's Rembrandt. They are the collectors. They are private jewels. Their meaning has been changed. They were once part of a shared cultural story. Now they are part of a private, obsessive one. Is there any hope? As time passes, the trail gets colder. The people involved in the heist itself are mostly dead. The threads the FBI had to pull on have frayed and broken. The best hope lies with the paintings themselves. They are physical objects. They have to be somewhere. They are not digital files that can be erased. They are canvas and paint and wood. As long as they have not been destroyed, there is a chance they can be found. The hope now rests on the death of the collector and the conscience of an heir. Or a mistake, a moment of carelessness, a photograph taken by a cleaner, a repairman who sees a door left ajar. A boast made to the wrong person. A secret of this magnitude is hard to keep forever. 30 years is a long time, but it's not forever. The Gardner Museum has never given up hope. The empty frames are a promise. They are saying, "We are waiting for you to come back." They have refused to put other paintings in their place. They are holding the space. It is a powerful silent protest against the theft. It is also an act of... The secret of collector theory is compelling because it provides an answer to the most nagging question, why the silence? Other theories that the paintings were for an IRA arms deal, or that they are buried somewhere and the person who knows the location is dead, have gaps. They don't fully account for the complete lack of any trace for more than 3 decades. The collector theory explains the silence perfectly. The paintings are silent because they have reached their final destination. They are not in transit, they are not a bargaining chip, they are home. It is an infuriating and strangely romantic thought. We hate the collector for their greed and their ego, for stealing this art from the world. But we can also, in a dark way, almost understand the desire, to want to possess something so beautiful that you would break all the rules to have it. It's a story as old as humanity, the story of desire, possession, and loss. So, are they hanging in plain sight? Yes, I think they are. Not in a public gallery, but in a very private one. They are hanging on a wall somewhere in the world and someone is looking at them right now. Maybe it's an old man savoring his secret in his final years. Maybe it's a young woman terrified of the legacy she has just discovered. But they are there, clean, safe, and utterly lost to us. They are existing in a parallel world, a world of one. The light from a window is falling across a Vermeer. The painted waves of a Rembrandt are crashing against the silent shore. The art is alive, and it is waiting. And the empty frames in Boston are waiting too. They are the most patient things in the world. They will wait for as long as it takes.